Welcome to this quick start guide on using Audio Pro. This is a quick general overview of a variety of features available in the editor for in Audio Pro. It's, all of these topics are going to be covered more in depth in later videos. I just want to give a quick general overview of what you can expect out of this in this video. So the first thing is, in Audio Pro we have audio events, which are kind of like these are sort of treated like clips in that this is like a single unit of audio, so I'll just create a demo event. But this can actually contain more than one clip arranged on a timeline. Each event contains one or more tracks, which I can create with this plus button, or I can delete tracks with this minus button. And I can just drag clips from the project, like just regular audio clips, onto any of these timelines. So I can drag that there. I can drag one here, I'm actually going to delete these tracks because I don't need them for this particular example. I have some music prepared for this example here, and I've dragged the intro portion onto the timeline, and I'm going to drag the loop portion onto there as well. And you'll see here I have this little snap feature to where it'll snap to the beginning and end of other clips. And so I can snap it right onto the edge of that one, onto the end, and that will seamlessly stitch these two together. I can also insert it right at the beginning there. And so these are single clips, and that just plays the single clip here, which I can change if I want to. There's also, let me go and find these footstep sounds. There's also what are called multi-clips. So if I select all of these clips and drag that onto the timeline, I get this. This is a multi-clip, and it displays all of these. It's like a container for multiple clips, and I can add new clips just by dragging them in here. So for instance, if I drag this here, whoops, that's not what I meant. There we go. That's what I meant to do. I'll just get rid of that. And when the playhead passes over this clip, it's going to pick one of these to play. Now, by default, it will pick them randomly. I can also change that to shuffle. There's also expression. And an expression, I'll cover more of this later, but an expression basically lets you type out an expression to use that will select one of these. I'm just going to leave this. Actually, I'm just going to delete this because I do not need it. And when you're working on a sound in this editor, you can play it with this button. And as long as you have this active, if this isn't active, like I've just changed it to, it'll give you a warning just to let you know. So I'll go and enable that. I'm going to turn the volume down so I can, hear my own voice over this, and so this plays along. You can watch the playhead going along, and you can also pause it or unpause it. Just gonna stop it there. And so since this is a song, and you've seen this is separated into intro and loop portions, I obviously want to be able to loop this part over and over again. And lucky for you, there is a loop region feature. And so if you don't enable loop regions, this is just going to loop the entire thing. But if you do, you actually get a begin and end. And those are in seconds. So here you can see, so for instance, if I typed in 10, it would loop between 0 and 10 seconds. Or I can just right-click this. I can right-click any clip on the timeline and hit Mark Loop Region, and that will automatically surround that clip with the loop region. So in this case, now the loop portion will just loop over and over after the intro has played once. And so that's a nice, easy way to create music with intro and loop portions. The other thing Audio Pro has is parameters. And so these, if you've messed with Mecanum, these actually should be fairly familiar to you. You can create new parameters You can give them a key, which is referenced in code, a type, integer, float, or boolean, and a default value. And these are used, so for instance, you type in pitch, float, default is 1, and I can use these parameters in 3 places. The first place are anywhere I see this automate checkbox. If you click that, you get an expression window. And so for instance, for pitch, if I hit automate and then type in pitch, this is actually going to use this new pitch parameter I've defined. And so if I play this, it sounds normal, but if I change the default value of this pitch parameter to something, lower than 1, it then uses the value of that parameter to control pitch. And so you can actually set these parameters from game code and define the behavior of your sound that way. So I'm just going to get rid of this automation, don't need it, and I'm actually going to change this to a boolean, give it a different name, and its default value is true, so that I can show off clip conditions, which is the other place you can use these parameters in. Every time you select a clip, you get this conditions box, and I can hit plus to add a new condition. And it's already selected test param for me. I can set, if for booleans specifically, I can say equals or doesn't equal, and which value to compare against. So I'll have to say, so let's say it must be true in order for this to play. And basically what happens with conditions is it will evaluate all conditions you add here, and if they all are true, then it will play the clip, otherwise it skips it, and this whole section of timeline would be silent. So if I play this, sounds normal, but I can set the default value to false, so now this condition is going to evaluate to false, and now it's silent, and it's going to wait until it gets to this, which doesn't have a condition, in order to start playing. And so you can use this to conditionally play clips on the timeline based on parameters. I'm just going to get rid of that condition and get rid of this value. And that's really a basic general overview of how to use this editor portion. Most of this stuff is self-explanatory, like this. You've already seen these if you look at the properties of an audio source. You can set the output mixing group of an audio event, so when you play this from code, it'll automatically output into that mixing group. I'll be covering filter chains in a different video, so don't worry about those yet. And finally, in order to, aside from the playback API to play these sounds, you can also create an audio event player. And this is a component you can just stick directly in a scene and just drop an audio event onto it like an audio source. See, it even has a little icon you can grab. And this actually, you can preview this directly in the scene with audio preview. So if I check play on enable, it automatically begins playing. If I turn this off and enable, hit play on enable and then play it, it'll start playing then too. So I'm just going to leave that as is. Actually, I'm just going to get rid of that. And so that's a quick overview of the Audio Pro interface. And in the next videos, I'm going to go more in depth over working with multi-clips, working with parameters, expressions, and conditions, and how to use the playback API to play sounds during gameplay.